Hello, this is Dread from Epic Builds, where you can find quality content for the game Last Epoch. We work hard here at Epic Builds and would appreciate a comment and a like, as that's the best way to tell YouTube we are doing a good job. All of these builds are homegrown, no save file editing, no deception, no underperforming setups, just epic builds. Cue the video. Alright, so in this video we're going to be going over Bleed Warpath Paladin. So I have a history with this build. It's kind of my baby. If you didn't know, I pretty much keep this maintained throughout patches, as it is one of my favorite builds ever. And I will say there have been major nerfs between here and last patch, mainly the removal of Manifest Strike. So Manifest Strike, if you did not know, is a idol that has a 20% chance on hit to create an extra auto attack on a nearby enemy. The reason why this was so strong was because it would proc off her Warpath, and the 60% added ailment effectiveness that Warpath has is not applied to the sword it procs, meaning it takes your full bleed chance, meaning it was a large majority of your clear and your single target. So the removal of it entirely definitely hurt the build significantly, and a lot of the changes we have here are to make up that fact. Now, by no means the build is worse this patch, and to be honest, I think it's better off overall. And the reason why that is because we actually have 100% block chance, or 97% with my current setup, while spinning. So Warpath has a node in it that gives you 20% block chance and 500 flat block effectiveness while spinning. And since we're playing with, Wings of Argentis and we're playing Warpath, we're pretty much always going to be spinning except for when we're putting buffs up. So we are almost at 100% block chance all the time. That was actually one of the weaknesses of old Bleed Warpath, was the fact you could only ever get up to like 70% block chance without too much effort. Because what happened was we don't have to run the -3 mana cost anymore. So in theory, you could easily get to 100% by using a Solarum relic that gives you like 5% block chance. But in this version, we're actually just going to use a resistance one, as resistances are kind of annoying with this build because the loss of a lot of things. So we are using Salt the Wounds. Salt the Wounds is a $1,000 supporter pack unique creator that was created by JayTheProduct. If you don't know, he actually streams on Twitch a lot, and you can go thank him there. I'll leave it down in the description. But pretty much what it does is it takes 60% for our build. It takes 60% of our added crit multi above 200% and turns it into bleed effectiveness. So with stacking some crit multi, right, we can actually get up to about 100% extra bleed effect from for Warpath and for your bleeds, which is really strong because we had about that much to begin with at 100%-ish with the old version, because since we're running Argentis, we can't run bleed effect on the chests, we only get it from the helm and the node inside the tree. So we're effectively doubling our bleed chance, giving us about a 50% more damage multiplier. And then of course we are running Devouring Orb as well for clear. The reason why that is because Manifest Strike used to do all of our clear because of how strong it was, and with the removal of it, we have to find other ways to benefit our clear. And this is actually good for us somewhat, because we actually get to run more movement speed, and most of the time I'm at 70% movement speed while clearing monoliths, so you feel very speedy with this build as well. Especially if you just run through the monos without channeling Warpath, you even have more movement speed. And it gives us a hefty chunk of increased damage and gives us a shit ton more extra hits on single target. It's nowhere near as strong as Manifest Strike, but it's good enough to get the job done. I'm in about 230 corruption so far. We could easily push this farther. Our boss kills take a little bit longer now. They're about 1.5 minutes instead of a minute. And that's mainly just because of the loss of Manifest Strike. Also, the gear in the video is not very good. It's what I managed to scrounge up in like 3 days while I was farming the blessings for this build, which I actually did farm the blessings for once. Then we also farmed for Wings of Argentis, only took 5 tries. I fully plan on updating this once I get the idols I need. So another thing we do this patch is bleed duration is king now. So back in the day when we used to run Manifest Strike, it was better to go with bleed effect to make it so that, well, bleed chance, because that would actually work with Manifest Strike, right? Because it doesn't get the 60% reduced effectiveness. But now, since we don't have that, the better option is to run bleed duration. It doesn't help our clear much because we kill trash easily, and thanks to Devouring Orb, that becomes a very easy process. But for bossing, that's where the issue is. So if we get about 100% bleed duration from idols and other sources on our gear, and inside Warpath itself has bleed duration, we can actually effectively double our damage on single target. Like I said though, it's only for single target because, like I said, trash dies too quickly for the duration to matter. That was why bleed effect was generally better than bleed duration, especially for the Manifest Strike version, and of course bleed chance. But now that we don't have Manifest Strike anymore, and the synergy between that and bleed chance and bleed effect is gone, that means we have to invest into some bleed duration to have an overall more balanced build. For content. I did get to like 240 in the arena with this build as well. I plan on redoing arena when I have better gear. I'm just trying to get the video out to you guys because I know a lot of you really want to spin to win this patch but don't know what to do. I've had a lot of questions about it, and I'm going to be honest, I've looked at everyone else's spin to win builds and they don't look very good. Like crit spin to win looks absolute garbage. So I'm trying to get something out for you guys so you guys can actually play spin to win and actually win instead of spin to lose, because there was a lot of changes that made crit Warpath a lot worse. I do plan on visiting crit Warpath eventually, especially with the Forge Guard. There's a new unique called the Leviathan Carver that gives you a lot of melee flat, and I definitely plan on playing a Forge Guard crit Warpath with that, but that will be later on in the patch probably. With that being said, let's get into the game, shall we? Alright, here we are in game with the build. The name is Stronghold Crusader, because this is actually the Judgment Paladin. I just respect into it. I do have Cap Fizz Res right now with the tree, mainly this. Battle Hardened, obviously my gear is not good. I will be bringing in the planner sometimes to explain some better choices than what I made in this video, in this build specifically. But for the skills, they're kind of fine. So we take 2 points travel into Unchained, 1 point into Reckless Spin. This combined gives us about -10, which is all you need. So for instance, I'm technically capped Res, obviously, shitty gear is shitty gear, Not on the planner though. The planner's fine. Then of course, 1 point travel into Iron Reach, 5 points into Juggernaut Stance. This is the note I was talking about that's giving us block chance while we're spinning. So right now, in the current setup of the build, I am about 90% block chance. It will get a little bit better once I actually get a better shield. Like for instance, in the planner here, we have a lot more block chance, so we'll get up to 100% or 97% at max because you can't run the 3% on Salt the Wound, sadly. So that's why this node is so strong, and this almost makes up for all the damage nerfs. Then 5 points into Whirling Steel. This is the new global damage node, quote unquote, we were promised. This is like 20%, 25% less effective than the old global more damage, and it also would affect like pretty much it would affect the bleeds applied by Devouring Orb and all that. But sadly, it's not global more damage anymore because the devs thought that was too overpowered, even though Warpath was in a shitty spot, but whatever. Then, of course, 3 points to Quicksilver Wind, so we're really fast because we want as much movement speed as possible. Then 3 points to the Gorebringer, mainly for the bleed duration. The bleed chance is nice, but it's mainly for the bleed duration because we want to get up to like 100% bleed duration with this build. Then for reversal, literally exactly the way it was last time. No nerfs, no changes, same exact idea. Sigils, literally exactly the same it was last time. Like, no difference here. Devouring Orb, this is new. So we're running Devouring Orb. We're taking 1 point travel into Dark Mood, 2 points into Abyssal Rush for movement speed. The more movement speed, the better, to be honest. 1 point travel into Cosmic Impact, and then 5 points into Sightless Star. So it only costs about like 17 mana to cast, and it has a 15-second cooldown. 6 points into Void Adept for increased damage. We never get enough increased damage with this build. 1 point into Hollow Orb to make our duration last longer. The rifts that the Devouring Orbs make to clear trash do not gain scale or damage, but That doesn't matter because we're just using them for bleed. 1 point into Abyssal Emission, so Devouring Orbs actually cast Abyssal Orbs now. These things, they actually shoot out at enemies. These will just give us extra hits. Like you said, the more hits we get, the better, because it's better uptime on the Fizz Shred, and also more bleeds, because we do have a decent amount of global bleed chance. Then 3 points into Dark Torrent, so that Devouring Orb casts Abyssal Orb more often. Then Holy Aura, literally exactly the same Holy Aura as last time. Don't have to change anything on this. So that's pretty much it for that. Now for the passive tree, it has changed a bit because Sentinel got reworked as a whole. So you take 4 points into Fearless, 5 points into Gladiator for the block chance, block effectiveness, 5 points into Armor Clad for the damage from nearby enemies as part of your DR package, 1 point travel and overwhelm, and then 5 points into counterattack. Due to the loss of Manifest Strike, we need a way to propagate more hits, and this is one of those ways. You can actually proc this 5 times per second with the 0.2 second cooldown, meaning that if like a bunch of melee enemies strike you in like a second, they will all pretty much die because they'll get hit like 5 times in a row, and the retribution will cause bleeds, and it's pretty alright. 5 points in Axe Thrower for an additional bleed on hit, because this node here in Paladin is still throwing bleed chance as well, so this is actually just an extra bleed application per second that does not get reduced by the 60% ailment effectiveness that Warpath has. Then 5 points into Blade Master. This node was nerfed, but not for us. You do not get the double attack speed anymore. That doesn't happen anymore, sadly, which is sad, Monka S, but whatever. You know, it was like one of the only reasons to play dual wield Sentinel, and now you don't really have that reason to play dual wield Sentinel, because you just take 15% increased damage because they nerf dual wield for some reason. So yeah, I don't know about that. Then 2 points into Battle Hardened, because my planner here, we don't actually take those points, obviously, because I have a better Salt the Wounds. We just take 1 point into Steel Aegis, and of course, 1 point into Steel Aegis. Then for Void Knight here, we take 10 points into Abyssal Endurance. This helps us cap our res. This plus a perfect Salt the Wounds will cap your physical res, which is really nice. The extra HP is good because we lack HP on this build, because we're running a Wings of Argentus, and that's your best slot for HP. Then 1 point into Void Corruption. Since we're stacking crit multi for the build, you obviously want to run the crit multi node here, and it's an extra 10%. It may not seem like much, 15%, but it may not seem like much, but it goes a long way. And of course, 4 points in Devouring Blade, because we don't really have anything else to grab, so that we can get to 15 for Devouring Orb. Now for Paladin, I take 8 points into Conviction for the Fizz and the Fizz Pen, 8 points into Defiance for the Elemental Resistance, 5 points into Honor for block chance and block effectiveness, 2 points Travel into Valor, 7 points into Holy Symbol to help our necrotic res out and give us extra HP, 1 point Travel into Sanctuary Guardian, 1 point into Shield Wall for the 5 block and the block on health. Dodge got absolutely murdered this patch with the dodge on potion use, so this is literally not a problem. Even before, you could technically play like a dodge block sentinel build if you really cared to do so, but now it's not even possible, so this is literally not a downside. So they nerfed this. This used to go up to 200% bleed chance. Now it's only 120%, which in my opinion is kind of shitty, but whatever. You do only need 8 points into it now, I believe, so it's not as bad in that regard, but still. 7 points into Redemption for the increased damage, and of course the bleed effectiveness as well, because even if we have the Jay's gloves, Assault the Wounds, we still need bleed effect as much as possible to stack our damage. Then of course 12 points into Reverence of Duality as well, and that'll be it. I'm actually level 96 with this build for once, so I'm very close to max level, so that's where the rest of my points would go, mainly. Now for gearing, for idols, I'm going to bring my planner over because my idols are absolute shit, so we're actually going to go over my idols here. Warpath area, chance to bleed on hit while at high health, that's very strong. Double bleed chance idols, we can actually run these now because Manifest Strike doesn't exist, go figure. 3 bleed duration physical damage over time idols, I actually don't have these. These bring up your bleed duration all the way up to like 100%, and it's absolutely insane for single target. It's like okay for trash, but you also get the fizz damage over time as well. So this actually makes up for all the damage that we lost with Manifest Strike. And then two HP hybrid idols fit snugly in these little two corners here. I can show you what I'm running right now. Just the same thing. I got decent idols here. I got bleed duration, but I don't have the fizz damage over time. I plan on farming those and eventually remaking this build. But of course, just hybrid HP idols. Now for the rest of the gear, we're running a winged helm. Later on, when you have better gear, you want to be running a bronze helm, because a bronze helm gives 25% crit multi as an implicit, and since you're a paladin, crit multi is very hard to come by, and since we're stacking it, it's very strong. Then bleed duration and bleed effect. You want as much duration as possible, and of course you want as much bleed duration as possible. Instead of that fire res, it should be endurance, and then of course increased health. We are running a bleeding heart. This is required because otherwise you will not leech damage from your bleeds and you will feel very squishy. So this is like all of our sustain in one item. I just realized I have a really shitty one, so I should probably upgrade that soon. I am running an undisputed right now. Why is that? Because right now I lack increased damage from these idols because I don't have the increased damage idols. So once I actually go into the increased idols, right, the increased damage with idols, I believe, I can swap back to a crit multi Dragon Bone Axe. Obviously, I'd have to roll it better, but this would be better later on once you have best in slot gear, because the crit multi is bleed effect, and then bleed chance, you get even more bleed chance, and the attack speed. It's just undisputed right now in the current state of the build. While I don't have that much percentage damage, is a little bit better for now. Wings of Argentis, this isn't necessary, but obviously it's a nice to have thing. The haste on hit is insane. The 40% DR is insane. I don't really have to tell you that. Now, if you're running a rare chest, you want bleed effect, bleed chance while wielding an axe, and then double HP, and that will serve you until you get a Wings of Argentis. Shield here is absolute garbage. Let me show you what you should be running. You should be running something like this: an Iron Glass shield with block chance, block effectiveness, reduce damage taken on block, and poison res. You have to actually build poison res this patch. I was getting to 240 in arena, but I died to 30 poisons at once, and I didn't have my cleanse up. So, and I'm only at 20% poison res. So you actually need poison res this patch, turns out. Huh, who would have known? The silver rings, these are kind of okay. I'm missing crit avoid here, mainly. Here I have a void res. You could probably run crit avoid or something like that later. Then, of course, the belt, you want fizz damage over time. Well, fizz damage, then the cleanse, the crit avoid, and the HP. Later on, you want to swap that crit avoid for HP, obviously, right? And then, of course, Salt the Wounds. This is, in my opinion, probably the best item in the build, and I can show you why. So if we look in our bleed DPS, we're at 540, right? Now if you take this off, 383, that's giving us about 25% more. 25% more damage at the very least. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. I got a really well-rolled one for the crit multi conversion, but I got a really bad one in terms of resistance. Sucks. Nothing I can do about it, because these things are super extra mega rare. But you don't need them. You could run Wing Guards and then transition into Swalt the Wounds version. I did try the Wing Guard version, and this is better than Wing Guards for now, at least in the current state of the game, until obviously the Wing Guards is cheaper to set up, but this is definitely more damage in the end, because it gives us another stat to scale. Then our boots. My boots are absolute freaking garbage, but this is what you want on boots. Then, of course, for the Argent Crest, you want the crit multi, the fizz damage, res, and res. I kind of messed up. I didn't have res here. I had 40% void res. I could run here and then run crit avoid here. So I could take off the crit avoid here and run HP. My Argent Crest was pretty bad. We're actually running an Argent Crest over a Solarum banner in the end game setup, because we get up to 90%, 97% block chance, and I believe that's plenty for end game for most things. That 3%, it will only happen like every so often, but like you're not going to feel it. And of course, for blessings, we have crit multi for Rye, because we're doing crit multi. The main reason we're running crit avoidance on all our gear is because we're going for bleed chance on Reign of Dragons. This is very strong. And of course, Fizz Shred from Hera. I only have 20% Fizz Shred, I believe, on mine, and it's doing just fine. Obviously, you want better, but Devouring Orb definitely makes this feel a lot better. And then, of course, Endurance from Spirits of Fire. I actually don't have Endurance right now. I gotta go grind it, but like I said, I'm gonna get this video out, help you guys out with your Warpath builds, so that you guys can actually play the game. Alright, and that's pretty much it for the build this time. The planner will be in the description. Everything else will be in the description. If you haven't already, I would heavily suggest leaving a like and a comment, as that's the best way to support me and to show YouTube that I'm doing a good job and trying to help you guys out. With that being said, this has been Dread from Epic Builds. Have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you're at, and bye!